Hey guys, I think I mentioned something akin to this before, but I'm going to say it in maybe more clearer language than I did before, for those who didn't really grasp. I just saw a video of IDF guys, reservists I guess, mostly, just sitting in a building in Gaza, I guess in between having, RPGs fired at them by orcs. And they're sitting there, they have a guitar, and they're singing, I think, a Chabad Nigun, a Chabad tune with no lyrics. It's just a tune. It's a very emotional tune. And I've said this before. If you're not, and I speak about myself as well, I include myself in this. If you're not these guys, and or their families, whether it's their wives and their parents or whomever, right, siblings. If you're not in a position of these people, these guys, and you're not where they are, then basically you're living in a fantasy world. You're living in a fabricated world, a world that thinks it has problems, a world that has time for, pardon my language, to think about and be concerned with bullshit, absolute bullshit. Whether it's, restaurants or events, or I went to this event, I went to that event, I wasn't invited to this, I went to that, I paid too much for this, I went over here, I met this person, whatever, this person doesn't like me, I don't like them, blah, blah, blah. This spouse is doing this, this spouse is doing that. Folks, I mean, there's, all of this exists. All this literal shtuyot, nonsense that I just described to you, which I'm sure everybody, on some level operates in, right? This existence, is basically matrix, really, exists because of these guys who go into hell. And the families who deal with the fact that these guys go into hell. Some of them, most of them come back, Baruch Hashem, some of them don't, unfortunately. Some of them get hurt physically, some of them, they live, but they get hurt, they get to stay in they get to go to hospital, whatever it is, recover. Folks, that's real life. Their life is real life. Our life is largely fake life. Mostly fake life. I sometimes feel like the only thing that is real is what these guys do, and kind of like the conversations that, these types of conversations. You say it's feet. Well, isn't it like a buzzkill? I mean, I don't know. To me, it's not a buzzkill. You know what's a buzzkill to me? The NPC life that people live. That's a buzzkill to me. Not to say that we should walk around depressed, God forbid, whatever, right? Dejected, depressed. We shouldn't. No, that's not what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, guys, I mean, all of our concerns, all of our, quote-unquote, complaints, and this and that, I tell my friend, we talk about sometimes, being single is hard, and this, and dating, and parnasa, the chase for parnasa, income, livelihood. And I always tell him, I say to him, I'm being serious now, thank your lucky stars that you're not in a tunnel in Gaza. Thank your lucky stars that, you're not in hell, getting shot at by orcs. I mean, at the same time, that's my one regret in life, that I never got to do the IDF, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, folks, those people are in actual reality. We are not in reality. And we should say Baruch Hashem for everything in the reality that we live in. And we should say Baruch Hashem for those guys who are doing what they're doing, without whom there would not be really the land of Israel. Forget about the state for a second, right? Because at the end of the day, the state doesn't really care about them. Even before this war, even before October 70, I hear stories from guys who did the army. Oh, all these guys come back with PTSD. Nobody cares, Well, they have services here and there, but folks, largely nobody gives a damn, right? IDF high command doesn't care. If they did care, they would have had a strategy to decimate Hamas way quicker. They wouldn't care what any president, the previous president said. If he was even in control, they wouldn't give a damn, right? What any international body said, they wouldn't pause. They wouldn't take a break, meaning they wouldn't be stifled. They would just do what they need to do in a short period of time, blitzkrieg, and that's it. But you could say, Tzvi, well, there's all these hostages. Again, guys, you understand what's been going on for the past 2 years. It's just been a nightmare in every way, shape, and form. So, again, I'm not telling us to stop our lives. I'm telling us to be grateful for everything. And I'm talking to myself as well. Right? We can get caught up in nonsense. We can get caught up in thinking, that this is, a crappy scenario, and this is a crappy scenario, and even people who are married, right? They're in marriages, and they're like, oh man, my wife is saying this and doing this, my husband's doing that and saying that, blah blah blah. I can't believe this. My kids are like this. Again, my friends, there are people who wish they could have their wife or even their husband back for sure. There are people who wish they had their kids back, the kids that went to Gaza. Some people lost their husbands, some people lost their sons, some people lost both, right? My friends, I think we as Jews here in the diaspora, we are stuck in, and I can only say this because I lived in Israel, and I see, somebody said it today, it was an event, when you step out of the matrix, you can see, reality from the outside. And that's a merit. Hashem gives you that merit to see it. You can see what's actual reality and what's fabricated, what's called choshech, darkness. In Mitzrayim. And I think that's Mitzrayim today, folks. It's not necessarily a physical place. It is really the lack of the ability to see what reality is, which I can tell you guys is not what we think is important, and all the shtiyot, all the nonsense, right? It's definitely not that. It is really just our loved ones and the fact that they're alive. Everything else is just icing on the cake, really. Really, seriously. It's just icing on the cake. So that's the message that I wanted to bring to you guys. We exist because they fight. And B'ezrat Hashem, they won't have to fight for much longer. Alright guys, talk soon.